Hey everyone, welcome back after a long off season. We are back with more layers once again. I'm Seth Mariano.
I'm Jordan Smith, and for those that don't know why Seth and I were gone for a while, uh, leading into part of the summer and the fall, we take a hiatus because Seth and I are both part of an annual theater production through Artists Unlimited, which, for those who are not informed, is an organization that allows those with varying kinds of disabilities to be able to perform on stage because they don't normally get those opportunities, and that's why the organization is there. Now, that ended on October 20th. That was the night of our final show. The reason why it took us until now, which as of recording this is December 4th, that it took us a little bit longer than anticipated is because on the same day of the last show, when I got home, I got a call from my brother informing me that my mom, who was probably our most frequent listener to our podcast, was in an accident, and unfortunately, she did not make it out. So I had to spend some extra time visiting family, grieving, kind of sorting things out with some of the things that she owned and different factors involving my family. So that tacked on an extra few weeks just to recover from that. But we are back, and we are happy to take this episode to discuss the production we were in so you know what we were up to.
Yeah, this year we performed Beauty and the Beast, probably one of the
Hmm.
biggest hit musicals of our day. And the turnout and I think the reception were very, very good. I remember I was on Artists Unlimited's Instagram, and there was like a whole collection of anonymous testimonials from people who came to see it, and they were like saying really cool things like, I saw it twice. I just brought my family. I loved it. So many great praises. It's like um, made me think, man, we must have done something right.
I would definitely think so. I had no idea there was an Instagram where you could see a lot of those testimonies. I do see one or two every once in a while on different social media platforms, but they basically say the same kind of thing. And what I would say the most intriguing reviews, if you will,
Yeah.
are the ones that I see where someone's going in just to bring their kids because it's a Disney production or a family friendly production. It's like I'm just bringing them along, and then they walk out and they're like, "I am so glad I saw this."
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like I know like in the weeks leading up to Thanksgiving, my mom was talking about, hey, I'm thinking we might go see that new Wicked movie, and Yin. I'm like, all right, cool. I know my sister was for a long time. That's like her favorite musical, and she was the one probably more hyped than any of us about it. And I had never seen it myself, but I did listen to a little bit of the soundtrack to kind of prepare, and and it definitely is uh, a very enjoyable flick. I think I would have to agree with the reception that it's very good, well-made movie. So
And I haven't seen it myself, but from what I understand, it's only like part one of the story.
yeah, it only covers the first act of the stage musical.
Oh wow! I mean, I guess I can get behind that to some degree because with a lot of long stories like Lord of the Rings or something to that effect, it's very difficult to cram everything you need to tell into one film, so it's often split up. So if that's the case for something as big as Wicked, I can definitely understand that.
Yeah,
And the one song I do know is probably the one that most people do is Defying Gravity.
right.
And the people that I've talked to about that song said that this movie did it justice.
Oh yeah, I think overall, I think maybe even with my limited knowledge of the musical itself, I feel like the film kind of expanded on it, uh, uh, did a very creative expansion on the story, added a little bit of their own touch to it, and I feel like because they split it into two parts, it allowed them more freedom to do things like that.
Sure.
second part is supposed to come out around the same time next year. So well, hopefully this will be that'll be a worthy follow up. But what we've gotten so far, I would say I'm overall pleased with.
All right, I may have to end up checking it out then because I was on the fence for a while, mostly because I wasn't too familiar with the musical. And apparently, there was a minor controversy at some point regarding a fan edit of the poster. But based on what everyone's telling me, it sounds like it's actually really good. So I may try to find some time soon to go see it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Anyway, back to our show. I would say you know I even probably got praise, from a stranger or two in the meet and greets at the lobby, saying, it was a good show. You did well, and that probably happens like most every year. But it will. A lot of the same performers were back. We had some good new ones, and I enjoyed. Even if I didn't have the biggest role, I feel like I found a way to have some creative fun with being the bookseller and being in the ensemble. And honestly, I feel like when it came to the Beast, I don't know if they could have made a better choice than to pick Jordan.
Yeah, for those that don't know, I was cast as the Beast.
Yeah,
One thing I will say, Seth, is
yeah,
there were a lot more compliments about you than you may know because a lot of people, both on and both in and out of the cast, like even just random audience members, when we would get to opening scenes and talking about characters like the bookseller, a lot of people would say something like, I don't know who the bookseller is. And he wasn't there for very long, but he just looked like he was having the time of his life.
yeah. Me, I was just trying to. My kind of approach pretty much was to kind of just kind of based on what's clearly there in the script, and then kind of take a little bit of an expansion on that and get a little creative. Like, okay, so the one point he literally sings 1 pound. Why would he be singing that? And I just thought of him waiting on a courier or something, and then pretty much kind of. Some might say I might have took it too fundamentally. Our director Carl's advice, just stay in character the whole time, engage the whole time. I guess I just went for it, and it overall, I think it was well received.
See that those are signs of a good actor because the casual person when reading lines, they'll just think about what they're saying. But actors like you'll also wonder, why am I saying this? What is the context behind what I'm saying? And that can provide a lot more believability, a lot more legitimacy to what you're saying. And it's engaging more to the audience as a result. The other thing, too, and our directors always tell us this, when you're on stage, you're always in character and you're always doing something. Even if it's very minor, the last thing you want to be doing is standing still and doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, and how would you describe like your approach to the Beast? Because it. I know for one thing, it was probably different than what I've ever seen before. I've seen probably like at least three productions of Beauty and the Beast before actually doing it this past year with Artists Unlimited. So what was kind of your like mindset behind that?
Well, with the Beast and with most of my roles in general, if I can find a way to do it, I will trying to find the right word, trying to bring in some personal experience to the role because it allows me to connect with the character a little bit more and really bring out what they're saying and why they're saying it, as we've been talking about. And there are some elements to the Beast that I can personally relate to, like how he would sometimes isolate himself for one reason or another, or just when someone he cares about leaves, he just feels really down in the dumps about it. or something to that effect. And the song that he sings leading to the end of the first act, If I Can't Love Her, is so powerful. And I tried to connect different aspects of my personal life to that song because the whole idea of that song is to get the audience to understand that the pain that the beast is going through. And while I haven't obviously had that exact set of events happen to me, I definitely have had moments in my life where someone I cared about left or moved away or something like that, or in some cases passed away. So I tried to have that be part of the character. And I believe it worked to at least some degree. Because by the time we got to the point where we were performing in front of the audience, I wasn't even thinking about it. I was just letting it flow. It felt natural. And that was with the role in general, not just that song. And the Beast's interactions with Belle, especially as he starts to fall in love with her, that's kind of how I am when I form a connection with someone. I'm a little bit awkward at first, and I slowly learn as time goes on. And it's like there's just so many parallels to my life with the Beast, and I feel like that made it a lot easier to become the Beast. I know I kind of rambled a little bit for a second there, but
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's fine. That's fine. But yeah, I will say definitely probably one of the more memorable behind the scenes moments was being able to watch you practice If I Can't Love Her,
mm,
honestly. And I feel like, honestly, uh, knowing what I learned by that point about you personally and that stuff, it was a particular thrill to see and, and the response from the castmates and the spectator seats. I think when you ran through that was one of the coolest responses I've ever seen.
yeah, I definitely had a lot of support for singing that song. I was even telling the directors near the beginning, it's like I feel really comfortable with this song, except for the last couple of words, because the notes get much higher
Mm,
than my vocal range is comfortable with usually. But they worked with me, they were very patient with it, and I was able to pull it off as a result. And the other thing too, even when we were doing it live in front of an audience, right before I go on stage to really get into doing that song, there would be about half a dozen people on that side of the stage with me, just being like, "It's your time. Just go out, give all you've got." They were just so encouraging, and that really helped.
yeah. And then there are the behind the scenes moments you don't really get to see as much,
Mhm.
like goofing off backstage or in the wings. Like another number that I was in was Gaston, and me and my take, and they had a sort of choreography routine where they would like for one portion they would have like castmates in pairs, clicking mugs. And the guy I did that with, I'd known him for a good long time, and we kind of had a joke that kind of, all right, well, today it's blue raspberry with vodka, and today it's like Captain Rum with a splash of cherry or something. Yeah, a little goofy, but
I mean, I love that personally. I had no idea until you just mentioned that. That's really creative because I feel like most people, because they even mention beer in the song, that's
right.
what they're gonna think of. But you took it to another level entirely, and I love that.
Yeah, for me, it was just kind of a way to kind of let loose a little bit and kind of have fun with my buddy for a little bit, kind of interact a little bit. That was kind of what it was for me.
Sure, and it's always good to have a little extra creativity in there.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was probably one of the more memorable moments from behind the scenes of this year. And uh, yeah, and even just the simple little moments of getting to connect and decompress a little bit and chit chat with some of the other cast members. And and there was an especially like heartwarming moment when I think it was after the first performance uh, when a student who came to the show, whom I'd gotten to know a little bit as a friend, said my performance was so funny. And it's cool because I know they're involved in theater. They do school theater and they have big roles like year to year. And
Mhm.
I'd just gotten to know them the year before our at our last show, and that's pretty cool, pretty amazing to hear that.
Like, it always means the world to guys like you and me when the performances we do or the things we're passionate about are having a positive effect on people. I say all the time that one of my main goals in life is to just get people to smile, get people to laugh, or just be entertained in general. And this type of thing that we do gives us the perfect opportunity to do that.
Yeah, and I feel like and it's like if we can do that, then all the hard work was worth it in the end.
Oh, absolutely. And we just have fun with it. It doesn't feel like work. It just feels like we're putting in a good effort to do something fun and just put on a good show for other people just
Yeah,
because we can.
yeah, yeah. Well, every year for me is better than the last one. I feel like I feel like every year it's only going to get better and better. Hopefully I'll get better at performing. I'll have sharper instinct and all that. And I feel like generally it's headed in that direction. I think, and maybe we all can say the same for ourselves.
I would definitely say so because the more we do this, the more experience we get, the more opportunities we have to really hone our craft.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I thought about bringing up is that we've done Beauty and the Beast more than once now because we did it about 8 or so years ago, back
Well, before
in
I came along.
right back in 2016. Uh, and between now and then, I guess Disney or somebody made some alterations to the script. Most of them not that noticeable, maybe some minor line changes or whatever. But there were two big elements that were completely left out that we personally were not thrilled about. One being the song that Monsieur Dark, who's the head of the psych ward that tries to take Maurice away, he has a song in the version that we did 8 years ago, but in this version it was completely omitted. So in this version, Monsieur Dark just comes out of nowhere. He just shows up out of random. And then the other one that really I feel like should have stayed in there, which we would have loved to do if we were allowed to, is the whole castle battle right before Gaston goes to attack the beast. Because for one, it gives a lot of the actors in that song something really fun to do, just something really zany, very goofy in some aspects. And there's even a lyric in the mob song leading up to it where you hear hearts ablaze, banners high, we go marching into battle. And then in this version, there's no battle. You just don't see it. It just ends that song and it jumps right to when Gaston goes after the beast.
Yeah, I will say though that I did have a good time. Singing the mob song. It's probably one of the songs that I've gotten the most invested in since I've been an Artist Unlimited. And honestly, even the omissions of those two things, though that may have compromised the show in some way, I didn't really think that much about it because I was just so focused on on doing my job. All right, I've clocked in, I've clocked out, I'm good. But I can understand missing that though.
Oh, sure. It's to a lot of people a very crucial point in the story. And if you're going to have the song that mentions a battle that they're going into and then just not show it, it's going to leave a few people confused. Like, wait, where's the battle? Is that it? Um, Regardless, it was still a very fun show. We both had a blast with it. And of course, now that this show's over, we're already kind of speculating what the next one could possibly be.
Yeah, and so I thought of kind of us answering the question: roles we might like to play in the future in Artists Unlimited, and I've got a whole list of them, and maybe you do too.
I don't know if I have as many, but I do have a small list for one reason or another. The Beast used to be on that list, but now I've done it, so I can cross that off the acting bucket list. The first thing I thought of was Quasimodo from Hunchback, but that one's a little bit trickier to do because Artists Unlimited doesn't really do shows that go into darker story elements, which Hunchback has some of. But if for some reason we were able to do it, I'd love to be Quasimodo. Maybe I could be Frollo or Captain Phoebus. But it's just a hypothetical thing for now because I don't know if they'd ever approve doing that show.
Yeah, well, I did actually, after one of the shows this year, actually meet someone who had played Esmeralda in a local high school production a few years back. I
Oh,
did briefly get to meet her, and that was pretty cool. So,
like was she at our production or where'd you see her?
yeah, she was. Yeah, she was at least one of our performances of Beauty and the Beast.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, and then another one I thought of, and then the one I was getting into when the computer froze was if we were to do Aladdin at some point, which is a production I know a lot of people want to do, but we haven't been able to yet for a couple reasons. I could see myself being Jafar. He's got a similar build to me, like he's tall, he's very thin, very lanky, but he also has like a deep, sinister voice that I don't really get to utilize most of the time. I don't think anyway. So I feel like that could be fun. I know some people have said they could see me as Aladdin, and I certainly wouldn't complain if I was Aladdin.
That's
But
what
I
I
could.
was thinking. You'd probably be Aladdin.
You think so?
Yeah.
Well, I do appreciate that. Uh, it would be a lot of fun, and I think Jafar would be too.
Yeah.
Either one.
Yeah.
And then I tried to think if artists were to bring back another show we've done before, like say Mary Poppins. It's like I've done Mr. Banks, I've done Bert, so maybe I could be like the bank chairman or something.
Yeah.
Although our mutual friend and fellow actor Andy, he has that role down pat. He's nailed it both times.
Yeah. Well, if he's done it twice, he'll probably end up doing it thrice.
I mean, if we were to do Mary Poppins again, but even if we do, that's probably not going to be for a little while yet. And then I also thought if we did The Little Mermaid again, which I know has kind of been tossed around as an idea, I thought maybe I could be Prince Eric or his butler. I don't know if I could be Scuttle because I feel like that's usually played by a smaller person. But maybe Prince Eric for that one. I feel like I can almost act like my normal self in that scenario, and that could be a lot of fun for sure. Because I was Sebastian the last time we did it, and that was a lot of fun. Under the Sea is probably still one of my favorite moments from Artists Unlimited. But if I had to do someone different, probably Prince Eric.
Sure.
And then Willy Wonka was another big one for us, especially since it was our first full production with everybody after the pandemic happened.
Yeah.
And I was Willy Wonka that time. So it's like, who could I be instead of him? I couldn't be Charlie. Charlie's a younger boy. Maybe I could be one of the parents. Maybe I could be Grandpa Joe. Or maybe I could do what Seth did in our last production and be Phineas Trout.
Yeah. You've got my blessing.
Very much appreciated. Thank you. 'Cause I think that's really the role that you had that really put your name out there because like you pop up a lot in the story, especially in the first act. And just like with any other role you have, everybody just loved watching you.
Yeah. Well, that's cool.
Whether it be because you were just having a lot of fun or the awkward moments where the kid was just like ignoring you or pushing you to the side, you made that scene funny.
Well,
Just
it's good. It's good. I'm good. Glad it made an impression.
it definitely did. Uh, and I also thought, especially since I've been thinking about watching the Charlie Brown Thanksgiving special because I still haven't done that yet. Uh, I know there's a Charlie Brown musical.
You're a good man, Charlie Brown.
Hmm. And if we were to do that, which I'm not sure how many roles there are for that one, because we got to accommodate about 60, 70 people. But if I were to play someone, I'd say maybe Snoopy.
Yeah.
And I think back to many years ago when I was much younger, when one of my brother's friends was in it and he was playing Snoopy. And I just remember how energetic he was and how much of a blast he had. It's like I love Snoopy in general. He's one of my favorite cartoon dogs. So it would be so much fun to portray him. And when I watch the holiday specials like the Great Pumpkin or Thanksgiving or the Christmas special, Snoopy's involved in some of my favorite moments.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. Oh, yeah, like in a Charlie Brown Thanksgiving, like him setting up the table or getting caught in the basketball hoop or something. Yeah.
Yeah, for Halloween through Christmas, my favorite moment with Snoopy for the Great Pumpkin is when he was imagining he was flying his doghouse, fighting the Red Baron,
Yeah.
just like the different colors and shots and whatever Snoopy was doing was just so funny. Gets me every time. Uh, for the Thanksgiving one, it's when he's setting up the table, like you said, and he starts to fight the lawn chair because for some reason it just starts moving independently
Yeah.
and walks towards him, and then he just punches it.
Yeah.
And then the Christmas one, it's when Lucy is not pointing out, handing out everybody's roles, and she wants Snoopy to be all the animals. So he starts doing all these different ones, and he starts mocking her, standing behind her.
Yeah.
It's just the way he does it is just so entertaining to watch.
Yeah. Yeah. He is pretty fun.
And then, let's see, I know I had at least one other one. I'm trying to remember what it was. Oh, the SpongeBob musical. I know it hasn't been a popular idea because most people will want to do something like Aladdin, which I get. Um, but it's like I'm maybe not the absolute biggest die-hard fan of SpongeBob, but I definitely have seen a lot of the earlier seasons and even some of the newer stuff. And there's just so many moments that I quote or think of and just have a good time watching some of that show with friends. So doing a musical about it would be really fun. As for who I could see myself being, I don't know if I could be SpongeBob because I don't really have the high pitched, squeaky voice for that.
Yeah.
Maybe if I had some voice acting training to help me do something like that, could be a possibility. But based on the voices of the characters that I can do, I could possibly do Plankton because that's probably the SpongeBob character impression I am most proud of because I feel like it's the closest to the actual character out of any of them. So I could say something like, "Well, Krabs, we gotta go get the formula."
Yes, and I have heard your Plankton before, and it's pretty much uh, spot on with the real thing.
I definitely appreciate it. Hopefully, at some point, I can show it to Mr. Lawrence, I think is how he's referred, the voice actor for Plankton.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you could be kind of like that guy who kind of went around the Disney parks, kind of imitating the characters to the characters' faces, like when they're in the costumes. Be kind of like that guy.
Oh, Brian
Yeah,
Hull.
Brian
Yeah.
Hull. Yeah, yeah,
That is countless impressions that he can do, especially if it's like a Disney character or something to that effect. And he's had several videos in the past. I don't think he does this as much now, but he has a lot of videos out there that you can find where he goes up to the character in the amusement park, whether it be Disney or DreamWorks or whatever, and does an impression of that character to the actual character. And they're often like blown away by how accurate it is. And a lot of times they play along. So I definitely, if you haven't seen them already, I recommend giving them a watch.
yeah, yeah. Definitely the one I probably watched the most intently was him impersonating E from The Incredibles, going through the Chick-fil-A drive-through.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
I
and
gotta see.
just this past Saturday, I was with some other friends, and we had a little movie night at this one guy's apartment and watched the original Incredibles film.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and so I think next time, which is probably next month, we're probably going to watch the second one. He has a copy of that, so
Yeah, I definitely gotta watch the second one again. I think I've only seen it like twice, and it was around the time it came out.
yeah. I mean, I've watched probably the first one a handful of times now, and I only saw the second one the one time when it was out in the theater, when it was new and fresh. So hopefully, maybe eh, I'll have I'll like it even better if I watch it again at my friend's house again.
Sure. And now we know it's not the end of the story because there's a third Incredibles movie coming out eventually.
Yeah, they made that official. They confirmed that.
Yeah, at Disney's D23 Expo that I think they do every year, they announce all their upcoming projects and some other stuff they have planned. They announced a lot of like sequels and remakes this year, and one of them was Incredibles 3. That is confirmed. They also announced that Hercules is getting a stage musical, which now thinking about it, uh, I'd love to be Hades.
Yeah, yeah. I think some people are still waiting on the Nightmare Before Christmas musical. Well, I guess we'll just have to wait.
Yeah, that's probably going to be a while. But they did also announce Greatest Showman is finally getting a stage adaptation,
It's good.
which I feel like took longer than it should have.
Yeah,
But yeah, that would definitely be a fun one to do as well. I don't think I had any more, at least in the immediate. So
okay.
if you're up for it, feel free to start listing yours.
All right. Yeah. Yeah, and I had a ton of them, and a lot of them are admittedly very long shots, very wishful hypotheticals, but some are probably more realistic, more likely. I thought of Sebastian from The Little Mermaid. I feel
Mhm.
like after maybe seeing some clips and maybe hearing your stories of your performance, I feel like I could probably, if I really go for it, if I really get up the courage and everything, thing, I could make it my own, inject my own energy into it, and maybe even do some of my own improvisations with it. I think it would really be a great like creative muscle exercise for me, and something interesting and unique.
Yeah, I could definitely see you doing that, and I would love to see you doing a Sebastian-esque voice for sure.
Yeah,
Uh, and you've shown in your previous roles that you can do the kind of stuff that Sebastian does. So I definitely agree that would be a very good fit.
yeah, yeah. And something I don't know why I didn't think of this when they announced that Beauty and the Beast was going to be our next show, but I thought about specifically Maurice, a fairly relatively simple, I think, easygoing role, and uh, and I feel like it's simple, it's straightforward enough and likable enough a character. I could think I shouldn't have too many problems with.
Yeah, I definitely will say this. Before the casting was announced, a lot of times some of us would sit down and be like, who could we see Seth playing? Because we've been trying to get the directors to give Seth a bigger role. Because Seth, any role you do, Seth, is phenomenal. But for whatever reason, the roles that you often have, they don't show up very much, which is kind of a shame. So we've been talking to the directors for at least a year. See if you can find a show where he can have one of the main roles.
I'd like to think it's because I probably don't have as much experience in the group as several of you guys do, for one thing, and maybe I haven't really shown the growth or the maturity or the courage to take on something big. Or I guess they just haven't been convinced of that enough yet. I don't know, but I'll do what I can.
Well, I can tell you this. They obviously haven't told me if they have decided on a new show yet, because why would they? Um, but every once in a while, especially when he's up here in the area where we live, I sometimes see our director meet up with him, just see how he's doing. And of course, the show usually comes up to some degree. And he has said to some effect that he does want to find a big role for you. He's just got to actually find it. So he does want to give you a big role. He just wants to make sure it's the right one.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's important. Just well, you got to be careful with these decisions. You gotta know what you're doing. And I totally respect whatever they decide.
Sure. And that's a very good attitude, very respectable thought process.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah. And then one I thought of was the wizard and his alter ego, Professor Marvel, in The Wizard of Oz. And that was probably one of the particular shows that really kind of influenced my dreams of performing. I remember back when I watched my brother do it in middle school, that specific role. Uh, and and so the reasons may be mostly nostalgic, but I feel like I could also make that my own unique thing, and I
Sure.
could and again I definitely won't try to just do what he did. I will try to really like put my own spin on it and have my own fun with it.
See, I feel like that's what most people should do. It's like you can definitely take inspiration from other people or other sources or different versions of a character. But I personally believe that in most cases, when it's possible to put your own personal twist or spin on it, because then it stands out more and it just doesn't feel like you're watching the same thing again. So that's definitely a good mindset to have.
Yeah, yeah. I'd say I also thought of Mr. Darling, the dad in Peter Pan, who I feel like I feel like in the secret part of my head, I can be pretty hot-headed, pretty angry, and I feel like I can sort of bring that out if I play this character of Mr. Darling.
Sure.
It would be I'd say it would be kind of a good emotional exercise and a bit of a creative fun experience.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I know that at least in the animated film,
Yeah.
from what I understand, Hook and the father are technically the same person.
Hmm.
At least they're played by the same person or some weird factor like that. So if they did something similar to what they did for me in our production of Beauty and the Beast, where I was both the Beast and the Prince, it's like maybe you could be Mr. Darling and Captain Hook.
Hmm. I suppose. I don't know. um, and then for similar reasons, I thought of Mr. Banks and Mary Poppins, which was the one I kind of had my eye on last year when they did that one.
Hmm.
But so pretty much for similar reasons. And then also I thought of maybe the bank chairman. I feel like I feel like the dialogue is pretty self-explanatory. I feel like it's pretty easy for me to interpret, and and yeah. So one of those two, perhaps.
Yeah, I definitely would love to see
Yeah.
you do those kinds of roles because one thing that directors love to do with some of us is cast us in roles that are polar opposite to how we are in real life.
Yeah.
Now, Seth here is a very kind hearted, very patient, very loving guy. So if he were to play someone like Mr. Banks, who starts off like very mean, very stern, it's like, I feel like it would be very interesting to see how you pull that off. And I mean that in the best way.
Yeah. I feel like there's at least a little bit of that kind of personality in all of us. Some of us just pretty much keep it under wraps or something.
I guess that's definitely a good way to put it because some of us do have like an angry side that we're just really good at controlling or keeping in check so that we don't just lose it at every minor inconvenience.
Right. Yeah. Once again, and I thought of like the titular role of Charlie Brown and You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, which is kind
Mhm.
of I feel like I feel like a lot of the frustrations in life that he has are very similar to the ones that I feel like I have. I mean, I struggle with, insecurity, disappointment, and feelings of inadequacy sometimes. And I feel like that's something I can dip or dig into ooh, pretty pretty proactively, I guess, through this character.
Yeah, I definitely understand where you're coming from on that.
Yeah.
And while it is fun sometimes to do a character that is nothing like how we are in our ordinary life, sometimes guys like you and I, we just love to do a character that we can heavily resonate with.
Yeah. 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 And then I thought of maybe two pretty much varying degree characters in Willy Wonka, specifically Willy Wonka and Mr. Bucket. I feel like I feel like the Mr. Bucket role would be pretty straightforward. Or Willy Wonka would be an interesting, witty, comedic sort of role, and and it seems like the kind of role that probably wouldn't require a lot of precise dance moves and stuff. So it'd be it'd be fairly easy, and I could just talk and say some funny things and stuff. So
Yeah, for the most part, while Wonka does speak a lot, especially in the second act, uh, at least from my personal experience, the choreography was never really anything complex. It was usually him just walking around, kind of showcasing the different parts of the factory. So yeah, that could be a good one to do. Mr. Bucket, same kind of thing. If you had a preference between the two, if you have one.
I guess I don't know. I feel like from day to day, my mood or preference could probably change. So I don't know if I can say.
You know what? That's fair enough.
Yeah, yeah. And then Seussical, which is the one that's been kind of predicted as a near future one. We almost did it last year, but then it got claimed by a school. But I was thinking specifically about the role of Horton the elephant, and that's something we've discussed at least personally before.
Hmm.
And yeah, Horton, pretty easygoing, pretty the uh, gent, gentle, mature. They're a pretty nice guy, and yeah, and pretty good story, certainly good music, and I that's probably, if we were to do Seussical, would be the one that I would want the most.
So, yeah, Seussical is definitely a distinct possibility since, like you said, we almost did it very recently. One thing I do keep in mind myself when it comes to what show will they do next is that our director has told some people already that there's a distinct possibility, not guaranteed, but distinct possibility that next year could be his last one with us.
Hmm.
So I would imagine he'd want to do something big, something grand, to end on a high note, if you will.
Yeah.
And Suzu could definitely be one of those options. And we don't want to get too crazy with like how big of a show can we do?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely going to throw a wrench into things, quite possibly.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I thought of ever since I saw this next show in October of last year while we were rehearsing for Mary Poppins, um, Little Shop of Horrors has become kind of, if not the favorite, one of my personal favorite musicals, as it has since become.
Mhm.
And I specifically would like to be in the role of the lead male Seymour, or the musical overall. Good songs, good story, or a likable kind of nerdy character in Seymour, and more, and so yeah, kind of for those reasons, I would. Admittedly, Little Shop of Horrors would probably be a little dark for our group and probably wouldn't be able to accommodate like the 70 or whatever people we've got. But if hypothetically, this is very hypothetical, if it were to somehow be possible, I would like to be in the role of Seymour.
Yeah, oddly enough, I've never actually seen Little Shop of Horrors from beginning to end. I know the main premise with the plant that
Yeah.
is growing and talking and singing, but I don't know much else about it. So I'll have to take your word on this. I know some people have said they want to do it, but as you were mentioning, it may not be big enough to accommodate everybody.
Yeah.
But if we could, you could definitely be Seymour.
Yeah. Yeah. And there was one musical I saw more recently and is kind of joined my favorites list. Me and a couple mutual friends of ours actually went to a college about an hour and a half across the state and saw them do a play called She Loves Me, which is basically, it's an old 1960s musical, basically following like two people who work together at a perfume shop, and they kind of are secret, like, um, pen pals, and they don't know who each other are.
Hmm.
They don't know they're writing to each other, and there are a couple of good songs in there that are, and there are a couple good songs in there that I had been familiar with prior, and it's an overall good story. I would like to maybe be like the male lead in that one, George, or maybe even the waiter at the restaurant. I don't, and yeah, yeah. I thought at least the performance I saw, they did a really good job on it.
Yeah, that's another one I'm not really familiar with, but based on your description, it sounds like one we could possibly do.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like a bit of a mature subject matter. I mean, it's not like really sexual. It's about as platonic as it gets, but it seems like a bit maybe sophisticated for our program. I don't know if really any kids who were to come would be really into it,
Okay.
but I don't like to say never. So
Yeah, unless they flat out say we're never going to do it,
yeah,
it's possible.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But I did like it when I saw it, though. It's
Oh, good.
probably not probably not for a lot of people, but yeah, but I was impressed, and I got to talk to some of the cast after the show and kind of tell them a little bit about our show a little bit. So that was one of the perks of getting able to attend that. So
Yeah, we're definitely trying to spread the word. wherever we can, because as one of the parents of our actors puts it often, our group is one of the best kept secrets in our area, which
Yeah.
we are trying to change. Because we still get a great turnout every year, but it's like
Yeah.
we could go even bigger.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, we're really counting on the donations to roll in. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
And I'll tell you, there have been people sending in donations as a tribute to my mother. So even though she's gone now, my mom is still making a difference.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember the one year my aunt and uncle actually, as kind of a gift for my birthday, they actually donated a few dollars to Artists Unlimited, which was really special, really cool.
Oh, good. I love that. I appreciate that from
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. Yeah. And then if hypothetically they were to make The Nightmare Before Christmas into a musical, and that's a good movie that I have enjoyed seeing before, and we saw the theatrical reissue like a year or two ago when it came back for like its 30th anniversary in the theaters. Me and some of the cast, um, and and I really like the sort of vocal style of Jack Skellington, and
Mhm.
and and s- and I like the music in that, and I like the music that he sings in that movie. So I feel like I could probably have some fun playing Jack Skellington.
And there's definitely a lot of characters in that one. So if, like you said, hypothetically, this type of musical were to exist, that definitely could work. And yeah, you could definitely do a good Jack.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks. Um, and then recently I saw the musical based on the hit holiday film Elf. That yeah, a local school um, performed the musical adaptation of that, and again, if for similar reasons as Mr. Darling and Mr. Banks, maybe the dad Walter Hobbs, or the boss Mr. Greenway, or the fake Santa Claus at the mall. Uh, I could have fun kind of letting loose some emotions with that.
It definitely seems to me, based on at least some of the entries on your list, that you're looking to play some more serious characters.
Yeah, to some degree, I suppose so.
Yeah, I definitely think that would be a nice, fun challenge for you because I see you very chipper a lot of the time, and it would be interesting to see. I know that's a generic statement, but
Yeah,
it definitely would be.
yeah,
So, in terms of Elf the musical, any one of those could work.
yeah, yeah. Did you ever see the stage musical, or at least you know the movie, of course? But
I was about to say I definitely have seen the movie. Uh, I've never seen the stage adaptation. I know we had an opportunity to, which is probably the one that you saw,
yeah,
but I never ended up getting around to it. I imagine it's pretty much parallel to the film for the most part. Like most of the main plot points are there.
oh yeah, for sure.
Um, but yeah, I have not seen the actual musical, but based on my knowledge of the film, I still would say I have most of the idea of what the musical would be. And as a result, I could definitely see you being someone like Walter or Greenway.
Yeah, or fake Santa.
I could definitely see you being fake Santa for sure. It's
Yeah.
just like he's only in like one scene.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, they'd probably give me something else to do too. So
Well, yeah, if that were the case.
yeah, yeah, yeah. They kind of did that. I had like three different parts in Mary Poppins background. So
True.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I think that's gonna do it for today. And just so everybody knows, Instagram is now the new home of More Layers. And if you you are a friend and you follow me personally at Seth_Mariano_AU, well, you can DM comments, questions, suggestions, whatever, and keep up with the latest updates on this podcast. Also, well, I'll include those on my page as well. And feel free to chime in anytime with whatever you got.
Oh yeah, we say all the time that any interaction we have with our audience is welcomed. We love to hear everybody's thoughts, everybody's opinions, questions, or comments about past or future episodes. Uh, we have some ideas usually written down way beforehand that we kind of pull from. It's like, what do we want to talk about next? But if you have a suggestion that we find interesting, it may pop up sooner than you think.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we will. We do plan on seeing you again soon, and enjoy what we have so far. And everyone, take care of yourselves, and have a good day.
So long, everyone.